Welcome to the Sharpening Stone, where we hone the skills to cut off toxicity and carve out a better future. I'm David, and in this video, we're going to talk about the geometry of narcissistic abuse and recovery, triangulation, the drama triangle, and the circle of influence. Let's get sharp. The geometry of narcissism, of narcissistic abuse. There are a couple of different shapes that kind of get used in describing what happens in narcissistic abusive relationships. Triangulation, drama triangle, and then there's the circle of influence. And what these are, triangulation is what the narcissist does to isolate you, to pit you against other people or pit other people against you. They do it in as innocuous and innocent a way as possible, or whatever tactic will work to convince somebody to think negatively, to have a negative regard for you instead of a positive regard, whether that's thinking of you as lesser or bad or unstable or having a problem. They'll drop hints. It used to be called sowing discord or sowing conflict, stirring up conflicts. A lot of times the tactic that they'll use is to pretend to be concerned for your well-being, and by saying, oh, I'm so concerned about so-and-so. I wonder if they've ever gotten over that addiction problem, or they were so broken by this traumatic event. I just don't know if they're ever going to be whole again, in order to plant doubt in other people, and to get them to think less sympathetically for you. Narcissists don't have empathy. They don't comprehend it. It's not in their vocabulary. It's completely invisible to them. But sympathy is what they go for. And sympathy is getting people on their side. And of course, if they get people on their side, they have to be, by definition, against or somebody else, whoever it is that they want them to be against. Typically, their target, their victim. So what triangulation does as an addiction for the narcissist, it takes attention off of the narcissist. So anytime the narcissist is afraid that their mask might be slipping, that they might be found out, that they might be seen in less than that perfect image, false image that they want for themselves. Triangulation is a tool that they'll use to get people focused on the problems with somebody else, or to stir up a conflict so that now the drama is over there and away from them, and they can work on patching up their false image of perfection. They also get duper's delight. As they sow this discord and pit you against somebody else, make you doubt somebody else's positive regard for you, somebody else's friendship or loyalty, they'll work both angles. They'll work on sowing seeds of doubt in you and sowing seeds of doubt in other people. They get this duper's delight because they know what they're doing, and they're watching the other people spin in the way that they are trying to spin them and not realize that they're the ones doing it. So they get this duper's delight, like, I'm so powerful, I'm so important, I'm so amazing, look at me, look at what I can do, and they'd have no clue. So they do get a lot out of the triangulation as far as their narcissistic addiction. It doesn't do them any good in a healthy sense, but it does medicate their narcissistic shame and pain. Not an excuse, not a justification, just a possible explanation of their behavior. They also like to use triangulation as part of the flying monkey business. Social proof or strength in numbers is what it's oftentimes referred to in other contexts, like if you're selling a product, social proof. See, so many people like it. All the best doctors say this is our the best medicine for you, or 9 out of 10 dentists use this toothpaste. Well, narcissists will say, no one wants to be around you. Everybody has a problem with you. Everybody gets along with me except you. That's part of their triangulation to sow these seeds of doubt. Even with other people, they'll say things like, I'm so good to them, I don't know what their problem is. They're always so upset and agitated. Or everybody sees what's going on with them, but they just can't see it in themselves. And everybody's tried to help them, but they are not helpable. These kinds of things, and you may see some other things or have experienced some other things along these lines. The point is to pit people against each other, to create a negative regard for you, to create doubt in you about other people's positive regard for you, because the narcissist will become so envious of you if anybody thinks well of you and it doesn't translate to them. And they'll want you to not know that, especially if you've received that affirmation or that positive regard, that honor from these other people. They want to take that away because not of jealousy, out of envy. An old word for it is covetousness. They desire what you have and do not want you to have it. So they want to take it away from you. Even if they can't have it, they'd rather have it destroyed than allow someone else to have a good thing. Next up is the drama triangle. This is kind of like an emotional, relational Bermuda triangle. It's like a whirlpool. What the drama triangle does is it's a coercive draw by one person in a relationship, one or more, to force people into specific roles. And those roles are always hierarchical. Somebody has to be higher, somebody has to be lower. Somebody's got to be better, somebody's got to be lesser. Somebody's got to be worthy, somebody's got to be unworthy. And what the drama triangle does, it can be a narcissist, it could be a codependent, it could be a target that tries to push people into one of these roles. There are only 3 roles: abuser, victim, and savior in the mind of a person trying to create a drama triangle or coerce it. There's got to be somebody perpetrating the harm, somebody that's receiving the harm, the eternal pity party, which a lot of times when we're targeted by narcissists and abused by narcissists, that can become our addiction to cope with it, because we can feel sorry for ourselves and complain about what is legitimately wrong. But when we stay there too long, it can become a medication for the pain instead of a motivation to heal. And that keeps us stuck, which is exactly what the narcissist wants, to keep us stuck. Now, with the drama triangle, it's going to be an all or nothing. There's no criticism of the person trying to impose the drama triangle. There's no corrective input. There's no suggesting solutions, because it's almost like a form of narcissism. They have to be the victim, and if you don't side with them, there's that sympathy again, as the victim, then you are now the enemy, and they will maybe smile to your face, but to other people triangulate how badly you're treating them and how abusive you are. And if they're talking about other people that way, it's a guarantee they're talking about you that way. because their triangle is different with each person. They're either going to be the victim or well, they always want to be the victim, but the other person is either going to be the rescuer, the savior, or the abuser, making them the victim. And depending on how that relationship's going, they might change those roles. Eventually, though, the drama triangle sinks the relationship. It's like a whirlpool. It just draws it down, and there's a bottom. It's a rocky bottom. And when you try to rescue them or try to support them or help them, the more you do, the more they get, the worse they get, the heavier they get. Then, oh, well, that's a good idea, but I have this problem and this problem and this. They always have a more of a problem that your solutions will never, or your support will never be enough for. And they'll get angry with you for trying to save them. At the same time, they desperately want you to try to save them. Eventually, you hit rock bottom, and either you have nothing more to give and they're done with you and they throw you away and go on to someone else, or you say, you know, I'm going to sink. I'm going to crash here. I need to get away. In which case, you've abandoned them and you are now the perpetrator. You were never any good for them. You were just fake. You were only using them. It was all a lie. Either way, they're always caught up in emotional drama. And it's a very narcissistic thing to do. But we as codependents or as targets of narcissism can get drawn into that as a coping mechanism while we're in the situation, or even after, if we haven't started to do the work of healing and recovering. Because these coping mechanisms, we get something from them. Like any addiction, we get something from it that makes it bearable, if not better. And sometimes bearable is all we want, and that's enough for a little while. But at some point, if we don't want to keep perpetuating the past, recreating the situations that we had in the previous toxic relationships, we have to heal. We can't heal the narcissist. We can't fix them. We can't undo what they did. We can't make them make it right. But we can work on the parts in us that have been cut and torn and broken and shredded, and bind them up and give them the time and cleansing that they need to heal, just like a physical wound, and change the bandages, keep them disinfected, keep them protected with healthy things that allow them to regrow and heal and recover, so that then we can move on and step out of the toxic relationship and the toxic patterns, the toxic cycles, and get onto the path of recovery and move forward to a better future, quite frankly. What that is the third geometric shape, the circle of influence. In order to heal, we have to begin to identify what we can control and what we can't. What's outside of our circle of influence is what the narcissist does, thinks, believes, says, what they have said, done, believed, or said, or what they've done in the past. We can't control that. What other people that we don't know whether they're toxic or healthy do, say, believe, think, or don't do, don't say, don't believe, or don't think, we cannot control that at all. That is outside of our circle of influence. Our circle of influence ends at our fingertips. It's what we can control in ourselves, in our own body, in our own mind, in our own heart. When we focus on what is inside of our circle of influence instead of what's outside of it, it takes a huge burden off, because no longer are we spending tons of time complaining about the state of the world, the affairs of government, the politics of religion, the money markets, all these other things that three guys drinking beer in the bar can solve, but nobody listens to them, as the joke goes. We can forget about that, leave it alone. It will be what it will be. We're not going to change it. We're not going to improve it. We're not going to make it worse. We can just work within what we have in our circle of influence and take the burden of what's our responsibility and what we are accountable for, the story that we have to say, that we have to match up the story of what we've done with the aim that we set for ourselves, the ideal that we have established. This is the type of person I want to be. This is the kind of life I want to be. Now let me tell the story of how what I did matches up to that or fails to match up to that. And where it matches up, let's celebrate. Let's encourage. Let's honor that. Let's, enjoy the fruits of those labors. And where we've missed the mark of the aim of the ideal person that we want to be, let's acknowledge that with compassion, with empathy, not sympathy, but empathy, and gently encourage ourselves and comfort ourselves that we can try again. We can make another attempt. We can adjust and see how it goes and see if we can get our aim closer to the point or the target that they want to be as our ideal person. In our circle of influence, we escape the drama triangle because no longer are we trying to carry other people's burdens and responsibilities. We're letting them take care of their own. And it takes loving ourselves and accepting ourselves enough to protect the limited resources we have. I don't know about you, but I've only got so much energy in the day before I get worn out, and I'm going to be short-tempered, impatient. I'm going to be rude. All I'm going to focus on is what I need. So I've got to protect that energy that I have and put it towards efforts that are within my circle of influence, things I can control, and not squander it on things I can't. It takes becoming comfortable with watching other people struggle and realizing that's their struggle. They will learn from it. They are in charge of their decisions. It's not my job or obligation to step in and rescue, even if I can. I've got to be looking out for the person I've been given charge of over and above everyone else, the person I'm accountable to take care of, which is me. And I have to say, hey, I was diligent. I was, duly faithful with the resources I had to take care of the person that I was given charge to take care of, which is me. I may have shared with other people, and that's fine if it's my choice within resources that I have to share with them without putting myself at risk. That's not easy when we're coming out of a complex trauma, narcissistic abusive relationship, because we're trained to do the opposite, to sacrifice everything, to drain everything out of ourselves for the well-being of somebody else that will never be satisfied. And the more that we try, the less satisfied they are, but we always have that hope that they might be. Changing that belief system, that belief pattern, to recognize they have to deal with their own issues. I can't do it for them. I have to deal with mine, and that's okay, no matter what they say. I got to be okay with being written as the villain in their story, because they will, no matter what. Even if we empty ourselves to the point of suicide, they will not be happy with it. So it's perfectly within our rights and perfectly good for us to hold back our resources to take care of ourselves, no matter what somebody else is complaining about, trying to convince us to believe that we should be sacrificing for them according to their definition. When they have their own resources, And we can see that perfectly well. And even if we can't, we can trust they have their own resources to take care of their own problems, struggles, and dreams and goals. Inside the circle of influence, we can do something about this. We can read, we can study, we can meet new people, we can practice skills, we can direct our time and effort to persistently and consistently practice things to generate the evidence and proof of our value externally, of our value to the world. That's not to say that we're going to use that to derive our value or to look for, hey, I need to be valued by somebody else in order to feel valuable. Rather, by building up these things that we are innately good at or have talent for and developing it, we can showcase it and present it. And whoever is interested, whoever that lines up with, can receive that and value it, instead of trying to give our good things to people who are just going to throw it away and spit on it and, wipe their hind ends with it and then hand it back to us and say, yeah, I know it was a piece of crap, whatever you did, to break us down, to try to instill in us and change our belief that what we did was good into what we did was bad, or what our talent that we thought was good was actually the worst thing that anybody's ever done. Avoiding those toxic people and focusing on building our skills, our talents, our treasures, our gifts to the world, and being content with the value of them in and of ourselves and sharing it with people who do value it, but not with people who don't. There are things I don't tell certain people. I'm very proud of certain things. I'm very happy about certain things, but I'm very picky, and I wasn't always this way. But I've learned to be very picky about who I share it with. And even though I might be with somebody that I know is just going to be toxic, and I might really crave to share this, I have to remember, and I have to put the effort into myself to remember, I want to share this, but they're going to spit on it. They're going to throw it in the ground. They're going to wipe their butt with it. It's not worth sharing with them. Keep it to myself. I'll share it with somebody else later on. And that helps a lot to maintain my self-worth, my self-dignity, my self-value. I always have self-worth, and so do you. You always have self-worth. You were born with it. You'll die with it. Nobody can change that. What we do with the resources we have and the treasures that we create, the works of art that we create from that, that's something else. That's on top of our innate self-worth. With doing this, the circle of influence, it's like building our own wheels. And then we can just roll away from these toxic people. And when we see them on the side of the road, we can wave or not and just keep driving and roll right on past them to healthy people. So with that said, there's a book called There Is No Messiah and You're It. I like that phrase for this context because with narcissistic toxic people, with drama triangle folks that are trying to recreate their toxic relationships consciously or subconsciously, we can recognize there is no one coming to save us or them. The one who can save us or them is already here. And the one who can save us is us, not them. And the one who can save them is them, not us. Hey, thank you for sharing this time with me. You're not alone. If you'd like to start or continue your recovery journey, I invite you to join us at the Sharpening Stone Coaching on meetup.com. We have 100% free narcissistic abuse and complex trauma recovery support group, and we'd love to see you there. It's a caring group of people. We've all been through experiences, and there's a lot of validation and wisdom sharing that goes on. Until then, whatever you decide, do what's best for you, and I wish you the best success in everything.